start tonight by telling you a story, a true story. Because my focus for my life, as well as for my talk tonight, is about possibility. It's about what is possible for your life. What's possible for my life? Because one of the things that I'm continuing to find out is that more and more and more becomes possible as I step into that next level of what's possible. So there is like infinite possibility available to all of us, truly. And so my story starts a long time ago when I was 24 years old. And it was a dark and stormy night. And it was about midnight. And I was in a van, a VW Combi van, to be precise. And we were on a dirt road, very remote dirt road, up on the East Cape near Gisborne, which is where I lived at the time. And it was pouring with rain, so it was pitch black. And this road that we were on was the road that actually went to my cottage where I lived. My cottage was the end of the road. And I was on my way into town with a couple of friends to go to a party at midnight. And I was 24 years old. So what happened next is all a little kind of mushy in my head. The road actually followed around the top of the cliff. And there was a very steep drop down one side. And the last thing I remember is thinking, oh my gosh, we're taking this corner too fast. That was it. And the van plummeted over the cliff. I died. And that whole process of dying is something that obviously will always be with me. I remember the whole thing. I remember leaving my body. I remember the journey to this incredible light place. I remember all of this stuff that happened. And I remember being given a choice. I could keep going, or I could come back. It's obvious what I chose, right? But I knew that I had more to do here. My work here was not done. And so I chose to come back. I was in a coma for quite a long time. And when I came out of the coma, my body was completely paralyzed. The only part of me that was functioning, that could move, were my eyes. And at the time, I was told by the doctors that that would be my life. That I would have to have 24-hour care for the rest of my days, however long that may be. And what I remember is seeing their words coming towards me and hitting a wall. It was almost like there was an invisible shield around my body. And I was lying in this bed. And I remember thinking, no, you're wrong. It's not going to be like that at all. That's not what I came back to do. And so that began this journey. Well, actually, it was a piece of the journey had begun a long time before that, but this was a big, significant piece for me to prove, I guess, that anything is possible. Prior to having this accident, I'd started studying nutrition because I'd been having some different challenges, and that just seemed my way through. So I was already in this process of looking at health. So I had a grounding. But what this experience did for me was blast open this whole concept of what health really is. It is more than just the physical body. And so I would spend days, weeks, months in this hospital bed, willing my body to move. That was how I spent my day. And this is where it started. I would will my finger to move. And then one day it did. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, I was off and running. So it took a long time before I was able to get out of bed. It took a long time before I was able to take my first step. And then a much longer time to get to where I was actually really healthy and functioning healthily. And of course that's an ongoing process, part of what we call life. It doesn't really end there. But along the way, I've learned some things. I've learned that no matter what, there is an answer. No matter what, we can do it. We can have it. We can be it. Whatever the it is, that is in here for us. I mentioned that health became this much bigger thing for me. And as I healed my physical body, I became more and more aware of the rest of my life that needed to be healthy. Not just this. This is the cornerstone. This is like the trunk of the tree, if you will. This is what holds it all together. And then all these branches come off the trunk of the tree. Emotional health, mental health, financial health, which is a huge one and one that we don't talk about very much. Lack of money creates more stress than probably anything else we know. That leads to more degenerative disease, more relationship breakup, and on and on and on. It's huge. And it's something most of us don't talk about in our everyday life. But that's not my talk for tonight. But that's a piece of it, and it's a very big piece of it. So we need to be healthy in all these different realms. We need to have a healthy sense of purpose. What are you here for? Not just to have a job and retire and die. Well, maybe that is what you're here for. It's really not what I'm here for, which is, we all have our journey. We're all here for a specific purpose, and that purpose is your purpose, not my purpose. And I think to start asking that question is a healthy thing. What did I come here to do? What did I come here to contribute? We're part of a community. We're part of this thing called the human family. And we're all absolutely unique. Nobody can fill your place. Nobody can give the world what you can give. And when you don't give, everybody loses, because nobody can take that place. And I had to come to that in here for me, because I really didn't think I had much to give anybody at all. And I started to understand that until I found that, it would be very difficult to actually keep moving forward, because my physical rebuilding and you know, all of that took tremendous willpower. And it took a tremendous amount of being willing to look at all the areas that it was impacting. What is my purpose? Why did I come back? I came back for something. I know that. I knew that my life here was not done yet. And I had to find that. And it's a really powerful inquiry to ask that question. What am I here for? What did I come to contribute? And the answer often lies in, what do I love? What do I love doing? What am I good at? Whether it's raising a family, whether it's being a good friend, whether it's something practical like being good at fixing a car, I don't know. For each of us, we have this list of what we love and what we're good at. How many of us take the time to actually start thinking about, what are these things? What would if I were to contribute something, what would I love to actually contribute? Because no contribution is too small. It's like, I see life as like this giant jigsaw puzzle. And each one of us is one of those pieces in this big jigsaw puzzle. And if one piece is missing, you know what a jigsaw puzzle looks like with one piece missing? Right? It's true. So my passions change as I go through my life journey. And this whole realm of health became a really big one for me. Mainly because it was driven by necessity. But in that necessity, I found a really intensely deep passion. And one of the things I know is that wherever we have passion, that's where we have power. Our passion is where our power lies. So I started to dive more deeply into studying everything I could about health in all of its many manifestations. Physical health, emotional health, mental health, spiritual health, community health. All kinds of things. And what I discovered was you can't really have one without any of the others. Because there's a big empty gap. In terms of physical health, because really that's where it starts. And I'm sure if I were to ask everybody here, everybody would be able to identify with a time in your life where you didn't have physical health be optimum for you. Am I right? Yeah, most people. So we know what it's like to not have this. I know what it's like to not have this. And it doesn't matter what else we have. It doesn't matter how much money we have. It doesn't matter where we live or who we know. If we don't have this, I mean, this is the crux. This is where it all starts. And the crux of this comes right down to these tiny little things called minerals. So this is getting really practical here. This is the bottom line foundation for our health. Beyond anything else. Minerals. Mineral supplementation. It's that simple. Most of us here are familiar with the fact that our soils are deficient, and I know that because it's a farming community. You know, if you want to have healthy animals, you need to give them supplements, because it doesn't just happen without that. If we have a garden, we need to feed that garden. We need to put the minerals back in the soil. We need to do all this stuff because it's not there. Soils in New Zealand are pretty much totally deficient in selenium, in cobalt. There's a number of different things, and of course different areas have a different conglomeration of minerals that are not there. How many people do you know who have thyroid problems? Who knows somebody with thyroid problems? Almost everyone in the room. And I'm sure, you know, those of you who didn't put up your hand, if you ask a couple of people, it wouldn't be very far out there. Without selenium, our thyroid cannot function properly. Without iodine, our thyroid cannot function. Our thyroid can't make thyroid hormone. And that's just like two things. We need this huge spectrum of minerals on a daily basis in order for our bodies to be able to function the way that it's meant to function. Because every single thing in our human body, everything, from our neurotransmitters firing, to our heart beating, to our digestive juices flowing, nails growing, I mean, you name it, everything in the human body requires minerals. It's the foundation, it's the bottom line, it's what we're made up of. And it is the biggest deficiency that we're facing on planet Earth in terms of our nutritional health. There's a lot of other things that need to be looked at too, but this is bottom line, this is foundation. There are these tiny little things called enzymes that are the spark plug for every single bodily function. Everything. They're the spark plugs that kick off everything. And there are millions of them in the human body. What feed those enzymes are minerals. So if we don't have them, we are compromised right from foundation level. We need them to make our cells work. Without minerals, our cells can't detoxify. They can't reproduce properly. They can't actually absorb oxygen. Without minerals, our bodies become a factory for inflammation. And one of the things we know is that inflammation is at the bottom I would go so far as to say underneath that bottom is mineral deficiency. But inflammation is the bottom line cause of every single degenerative disease condition that we can name. And it all starts with mineral deficiency. One of the key things that minerals do in the body is that it sparks our cells' electrical output. And this is really important. It's really vital. You've heard of these things called electrolytes, right? They're minerals. Electrolytes are minerals. And so when we have a healthy source of minerals that need to come from plants, scraping off dolomite and eating it doesn't really do much for the health of our human body. And I've done that in the past. When we find a good source of minerals, they need to be plant-derived minerals, minerals that come from plants. Because the plants actually take up minerals and they transmute them into a form that our bodies can utilize and that are what we call bioavailable, which means available for us to use in a healthy way. They become water soluble. Plants do that. They have this incredible mechanism that does that. Otherwise, we get what we call heavy metals, heavy metal toxicity, very toxic. Now, there's a lot of education out there about this. Most people understand that heavy metals are very toxic to the system. One of the things that happens when we're minerally deficient is that those heavy metals, which we breathe through the air, we drink in our water, right? We absorb through our skin, we eat through our food because it's in all the soil. We're constantly taking in heavy metals. If we are on any medication, that ups the ante way high, etc., etc. And so when we have a deficiency of the minerals that should be in our body, guess what moves in to take their place? Because they're minerals, right? They just happen to be very toxic to our system. So they go in and fill up the gaps. So the more minerally deficient we are, the more toxic load we're carrying. Our life force starts at a cellular level. And this electrical current, right? Minerals that are plant-derived minerals have an electrical charge. And so when we take them in at a cellular level, our cells are actually, they put out electricity, right? When we're unwell, or when our health is compromised by toxicity, by whatever, that electrical charge gets really dull and sometimes goes out. We're losing our life force. Minerals are the key to putting that back in again, because that's what they do at a cellular level. So find a good source of plant-based minerals, plant-derived minerals. Does anyone remember the periodic table in science class at school? Do you remember that? With all these different minerals and all of their symbols and things? We need all of that. We need all of those on a daily basis in our bodies. We're not getting them. I know that for a fact. We are not getting them. I remember many, many, many years ago, I did some work for the New Zealand government, and I worked in a lab, and we did an experiment. And we actually, we being a small group of us, there were 5 of us in this group, we went to local supermarkets. This was in Auckland. And we just randomly took stuff off the shelf. A carrot, some oranges, you know, some leafy greens, some just different fruits and vegetables off the counter. I mean, off the, you know, off the shelves in the supermarket. And we bought them, we paid for them. But we took them back to the lab. And our job was to ascertain how much of certain nutrients were in these foods. And it was very basic. You know, like vitamin C, vitamin A, I can't remember what the other things were. Calcium, I think, was one. This is going back, oh my gosh, a long time, probably at least 30 years ago. And what we discovered back then totally blew me away. We were looking at carrots that looked beautiful and had virtually no discernible vitamin A in them. Oranges, same. Virtually no vitamin C, they're almost all water. Orange water. I mean, it was astounding. And this was 30 years ago, when things here were still relatively healthy. And so we wonder, we look around and wonder, in this land of such incredible abundance, why are people having such intense health issues? This is one of the keys right here. Simple, simple, simple key that can be remedied so easily. And until we have this, until we have this level of vibrant health, at least the beginnings of it, the foundation of it, then everything else is compromised. Our thinking is compromised. Our emotions are compromised. How we respond to things, our level of stress, everything is compromised. And it's extraordinary what happens as this starts getting healthy. It's amazing. We start making different choices. We start being way more emotionally literate, what I call emotionally literate. Our ability to respond, responsibility, right? A responsibility to live the life that we've been given to live. What a gift! We've been given this gift called life. And most of us just like don't even think about it. Throw it away. It's an incredible gift. We have a responsibility. How do we respond? What is our ability to respond to life, both in here and out here? It changes. As the health of our human body changes, that changes. So I'm very particular about what I allow myself to be impacted by. What I mean by that are things like, you know, I choose the people that I want to be around. I choose the relationships that I want to have. I choose how I respond in certain situations. You know, when I'm in some kind of dialogue or relationship with a person. The choices, you know, they're not always absolutely perfect, but I've found that the healthier I get, the healthier my responses are. The way I think. I don't watch the news because I don't allow that kind of impact into my system. I know what it does. I've I've seen it. I've seen what it does. I read a study last year that really impacted me, which was a study that was done in England. And they had a group of people that they sat in front of 1 hour of world news. All they did was watch world news for 1 hour, and they monitored the change that went on in these people's bodies. It was astounding, the impact that most people don't even think about, the stress that it was causing in here. And when stress starts doing its thing in our body, it literally creates toxic chemicals that affect our brain, affect our way we think. We create levels of fear in our body that weren't there before. Just a one simple thing. And there are lots of things like that. That how I live in my world is important to me.
Right, can I get it from the bottom of the stairs, ladies?
So, yeah, come and get it. It's all here. Yeah. And so what becomes more possible? Areas of possibility start opening up. The healthier our bodies become, the more possibility opens up. Right? I see things now I never would have seen 20 years ago. I see things in a different way. I see what's possible for me in ways I never could have imagined when I wasn't feeling like I feel today. And I can choose how to respond to those things, but I see more and more and more. Because one thing I know is that we are so much more than we believe we are. We are way more than we can even imagine we are. We think of ourselves often, well, I think of myself often as this compromised body walking around. We're extraordinary. Each and every one of us is extraordinary.